with information technology, I can, talk and see and hear over a long distance, but I can't do. So what teleoperated robotics, which is what we're focused on right now, does is allows me to do things even though I'm not there. So this one's called Dexter, the one with the legs.
So Dexter with the legs is doing the walking.
He's doing the walking and running and sort of skipping. And Monty over here with the wheels is doing the manipulating. He can pick things up off the ground. He can put things into cups. He can pretty much, we think, do everything that maybe a 3 or 4-year-old can do. Maybe not quite as fast as a human being, or certainly an adult human could do them. So that's one of the criteria that we're working on is, how efficient can we do this, where a remote operator can actually do the kind of thing that that he would be able or she would be able to do, but do it remotely. Is it going to take 2 hours to do a 1-hour job? And hopefully we'll get to the point where it takes half an hour to do a 1-hour job, because some of these things will actually start to be automated. You really can't teleoperate walking. You can sort of tell a robot where to go, but you can't teleoperate all of the balance stuff. So that's a chance for us to work on low-level autonomy. It's actually not completely unrelated to the work we do with the upper arms and the fingers, so it's a somewhat different application of it. And there are definitely environments where humans need to go that are not accessible to a two-wheeled robot, such as, if you need to climb up stairs, go up ladders, or if you have a military or a disaster situation where you don't have normal human infrastructure with ramps and stairs and stuff like that, you need to go into a sort of an unstructured environment, into the jungle or something like that. You're going to need to have legs. That's how nature solved that problem, and so we want to have every capability that humans have.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Well, currently my task is to move my hands and run this joystick and move my fingers in this glove to make Monty, the teleoperated robot with wheels, do essentially what I'm doing. And then I look at this camera panoramic display to see what's going on around Monty. And I do various tasks that show what Monty is capable of. My movements are exactly mirrored, so any missteps are also mirrored.
Have you ever done anything like scratch your nose and then...
I've come close to scratching my nose, which is the equivalent of punching yourself in the face if you don't pause. So, that's bad. But fortunately, I've never actually fully scratched my nose without realizing what I'm doing.
So how hard is it actually to do this?
It's a pretty quick learning curve, actually. Like, the first day, you're really bad. Like, you have no idea what's going on. But as you watch the limbs of the robot move, you start to get a sense of coordination, and then after like a day of looking at the robot, you can start looking at the monitors, since you kind of start to have an instinct for how the hand moves and how the arms move with your arms. And then you can really start doing some reasonable things like giving people business cards. I was an undergrad at CMU, a sophomore last year, and I was kind of looking for what to do over the summer and saw the videos that were published in February, and said, wow, I want to work there. And so I got an internship there, and then once the summer came around to an end, I said, school, not so much. And so I stayed here, and I'm on leave from CMU. And I'm going to finish undergrad probably next year. I code mostly in Python, although there's a little bit of C++. And I mostly deal with walking software. I've written some, especially offline statistical processing for logs of what happens on walking.
So it's standing now and bouncing dynamically, and if you push it, it has to react, not unlike a person does. If you watch the feed, it's it has to react dynamically because all the joints are springy and it's not stable in any sense, other than through software. Well, my background is computer science, mostly internet and network stuff. And so, I did e-commerce, worked on a bunch of internet stuff, and decided I wanted to do something different. So 6 years ago, I started learning about robots and started a robot company.
What excites you about this industry?
Well, it's 2007. We're definitely supposed to have robots walking around by now. Someone's got to do it. Pneumatics gives us two things, really. They're springy and compliant. So it's very different from the motion of an industrial robot arm, where it has a very precise trajectory, and if anything gets in its way, it smashes it. So our robots are kind of soft, and you can interact with them and push them around, and they move. The other thing is they have great strength and speed, which doesn't really matter much for the arms, but for legs, you actually need, it makes a big difference if your legs are strong enough to move quickly and recover from a stumble. Well, the idea is to get around in human environments. And so, we've designed all these things in our world, stairs and doors that turn out to be hard for wheeled things to get through, and legs work pretty well.
So what's the next progression for this stage?
Getting walking to work better. It works now most of the time on an even floor, but we want it to really be able to follow a person around on the street, and deal with terrain, deal with uneven surfaces, deal with stepping around things, and on the arm side of things to get that teleoperation working well enough that we can. That it's easy for an operator without months of practice to be able to do things quickly. Well, the plan is we start with 100% teleoperation. So there's a human directing every second of movement. And then, as we figure out how to make particular little bits of it autonomous, we'll pick the most boring, repetitive, simple thing and automate that. And, that lets one operator focus on another robot. So eventually we'll work our way up to autonomy, but we have something that's useful with zero autonomy, and if we have 10% autonomy, that saves us 10% of labor cost.